So just a quickie to the stitch bingo from the other night. This is the one I didn't completely finish, so wanted to show you these stitches here, which I went through. This is the edging stitch, which, as I say, normally you can use it as an edge for a collar or a hem or something like that, because you can stitch it out. I would normally use fray check and maybe a soluble interfacing under this as well, and then I can trim it right up to the edge. And this one here, same sort of stitch, but I looked at it and frankly I thought, that's a handlebar moustache, isn't it? So this is what I came up with, and I was just going to finish up. These are my three little chefs, and if anybody is watching Celebrity Master Chef, these are my moustache chefs. And I've drawn them out. I just drew around a cotton reel, and I've just drawn a very, very basic, as you can see, little picture here with a handlebar moustache. And I'm just going to first off use my regular straight stitch, but I'm taking it down into tiny, on here you can see regular straight stitch. I've set this as my favorite, one of my favorite stitches. I think it's number 2 at 1.1 as my stitch length, so it's nice and small, which will give me the similar effect to free motion, but I've got a lot more control as I go round, so I quite like this stitch. And especially if I'm then going to be doing other stitches, fancy stitches, it saves me having to keep chopping and changing feet, etc, etc. So I'm just going to first of all walk around the shape of the face. I've done it with a friction pen, so I can just iron this all away afterwards. Because I've got that tiny stitch, remember, I can go quite curvy just by sort of forcing the fabric round. If it feels like you're forcing it too much, don't forget lift and turn, or you can put your pivot on. My pivot is actually on here. And all I'm doing is just doing all the outlines here. So I've already done the moustache stitch, which was, hang on, D108. So it's a decorative 108. I've used, when I've gone into my decorative stitches, just to show you, it's quite a long way in because obviously there we go. So if you go to this little button here, just in case you didn't know, you've got 3 hearts in a row. If you press it, you then get heart, spade, diamond, which means when I press that stitch, instead of getting a row, I'm just going to get one. And that's the one that you'd use if you were going to actually make a stitch pattern. So remember, it's that little button up on the top there. And I have already measured out my stitch to know where the centre's going to come, so I can centre it under the nose. I know it's the end of my foot here, and I'm using the F2 foot as I usually do for this sort of thing because it's got the biggest amount of space, so I've got really good vision going on there. The other stitch that was in this selection is a utility stitch, and it's just my basic elasticated zigzag, so it's lots of little stitches as we go along. So I'm going to go into the utility, and that was number 11. Okay, and I'm going to close that up. So I'm going to take my stitch length down, probably to about 0.5, so that it's much closer. And I'm going to make it quite long hair on here as well, because it was 5, which a lot of these utility stitches are on. So I'm going to take it up to 7, I think. And I'm just, this one I'm just doing hair to the side, just so they look slightly different. You can use any stitches you like here. I'm doing, because I'm playing Stitch Bingo, the rules are that I have to stick with the stitches I'm given as much as possible, but there are obviously a lot of stitches on here that would equally do for hair. In fact, if you watched me do the caterpillar, where I show, and again that's a utility stitch actually Concentrate, Julia, what you're doing. There you go. That's a utility stitch as well. It's one of the over edge stitches which you can then cut to form a fringe effect. So you could give him spiky hair, but Maureen, whose suggestions these were, didn't give me that option, so I've had to stick with what I've got. There, I've done his little moustache already. I'm going to go back into my straight stitch, and like I say, I've set this as my favourite stitch, so it's automatically going on. And I do this a lot if I'm doing this sort of thing. I chop and change which favourite stitch I've got, but this tiny little straight stitch, I do use that a lot, so I quite like that one. Yeah, this is my first favourite stitch, and then I think my second one, I've got it the needle position over so that it gives me 1/4 of an inch on the side of the foot, because I'm a terrible one for forgetting the 1/4 inch. So I just kind of tend to wing it sometimes with the foot that I've got on rather than putting a 1/4 inch foot on. So I have realised that it's much safer for my quilting if I have that set as a favourite stitch, so it's automatically going to do it for me rather than me keep forgetting, because I figure if it's dressmaking and I'm on 1/4 of an inch, it really doesn't matter. But if I forget and do quilting on 5/8, obviously that is really going to matter. So I can just finish off going along here, just up and down with this stitch. I use it quite a lot for decorative applique. I'm just stitching straight on here, and I've used a crayon for the colouring, the shading on the face, etc. Just ordinary cheap old wax crayons, which you can just do really lightly, and then you can set them with an iron, but they give quite a nice effect and are super cheap. So for his hands, I'm going down. He's got funny little hands, and then I'm just reversing back so I get into the same spot. I have actually put my pivot on now because I forgot, which makes life a lot easier, doesn't it? So I can just reverse back over what I've stitched, which sometimes I will do for speed on this. Good thing about these friction pens is if you miss your lines when you iron it, it's all just going to disappear. Just going to go around his nose. There we are. And I think the only thing left is I've done a couple of little French knots for the eyes. And oh, I haven't done his little stripy jumper, so I'll do his stripy jumper in a minute, but I think you're getting the point there. So I'll leave that for now. So that's the stitch bingo for the chefs, and I need to put on his bow tie as well, which wasn't one of my 3 stitches. I cheated and I stole that from somebody else's offerings of stitches. It's one of the satin, hang on, where are we? Satin stitches, there we go. That's the stitch bingo for the chefs, and I need to put on his bow tie as well, which wasn't one of my 3 stitches. I cheated and I stole that from somebody else's offerings of stitches. It's one of the satin, hang on, where are we? Satin stitches, there we go. Number 11 on your satin stitches. Okay, so let's go back and just do one, and look, you can see that you've got a little bow tie, so I can do that in green. And I'm going to do him a little stripy shirt as well, a couple of little eyes, and that's all done and finished. So another stitch bingo project.